Welcome to our video series on generative AI. I'm Kevin Boyd, the CIO at the University of Chicago. I'm very pleased to welcome Professor Paula Harper from the University of Chicago Music Department and Professor Ada Palmer from the Department of History for a discussion today about generative AI in creative fields like the visual arts, music, literature, and design. So I'm really excited about this discussion today. Let's start with the basics. Can you tell us a little bit about how generative AI is currently being used across the different creative fields?
Do you want to start?
Sure. So I'm a musicologist. In music, there are a number of different tools that have spun up, like with tools for the generation of text and image, but for the creation of novel musical texts. So things like put in a prompt and receive a piece of music that has been generated by AI. So lots of tools spinning up that are used by professionals, but that can also be used by amateurs.
And speaking as a historian, but also a science fiction writer and someone with a lot of publishing contacts, it's being used for the generation of illustrations and cover art, and there's a lot of discussion of is this ethical and appropriate. With a lot of especially self-published authors are finding it much more economical to use AI-generated art than to hire an artist. And then within the field of generating texts, there are these questions of, it is now the case that you can put in, write me a young adult romance novel about Ruxandra of Wallachia, the vampire raven princess, who really existed in 1480. But there's no YA romance novel about her yet, despite her being Dracula's granddaughter. So then, bloop, there it comes, and you have this vapid, unoriginal, incorrect about Hungary, but nonetheless extant text that you could then choose to submit somewhere to publish or publish yourself, making a lot of tension about how does this affect what people are generating? Is this art? Should we be looking at it? How do we use it? And that kind of thing. But it's very exciting when you just put it in and it comes out, and my undergrads come to me and like, look, the book you said doesn't exist. It exists today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it coming out shortly after this video publishes.
I am completely going to try that after we get done with this. Okay, so Paula, let me ask you. So can you give us an example of how generative AI is transforming traditional practices in art and design? And are there any examples where you would say that it's significantly contributed to creative outcomes?
Well, I would say in terms of traditional practices in music specifically, that a lot of the ways that these tools are being used for music right now are for maybe the less kind of vaunted and less high value musical practices in the music industry. So a lot of the tools now are great for spinning up things like library music or royalty-free music, stuff that can be used in the backgrounds of commercials or other kind of amateur audiovisual media, stuff where it's not necessarily foreground listening material. And that's sort of the reality of that kind of contemporary ecosystem, right? That music exists pervasively in this kind of background space. So generative AI is great for that. Whether that's a great state of being for music writ large, that's another question. And another one of these kind of ways that generative AI music is kind of taking the place of existing forms of music is in musical fakery. So there's a lot of production of fake music that's happening through the use of generative AI, especially around things like album leaks. The most recent Taylor Swift album leaked, and there were a bunch of AI-generated musics that were circulating as well around that, as well as the recent Kendrick Lamar and Drake rap beef. There's been a lot of conversation with generative AI happening around the peripheries of that rap beef. So yeah, the generative AI music is certainly part of these music industry spaces, just maybe not the ones that we might think of as like paradigmatic or mainstream music industry spaces.
Interesting. I guess I was introduced to some of this when the Kendrick Lamar and Drake video came out.
Drake and the Weeknd.
Drake and the Weeknd. Sorry, Drake and the Weeknd. And that's a really interesting possibility that I hadn't considered with something like this.
And it really, Heart on My Sleeve, which was a track that was not created by either Drake or The Weeknd, but in fact by a TikToker named Ghostwriter977, that's something that a lot of the conversations come back to, right? It's a real kind of flashpoint and a reference point that a lot of the AI conversations around the potentialities, both exciting and dangerous for various personnel in various creative industries.
And this is a perennial and old problem when you're living in an information revolution, because it means that things can be sped out quickly in a way that people aren't prepared for, and there aren't yet trust verification networks. So, for example, if we look at the 18th century, there were letters that Voltaire wrote back and forth to his publishers in Paris every week to say which things that had come out with the name Voltaire on them were his, and which were not, because people were putting things out saying that it was Voltaire. And you had to develop networks of trust. And it's exactly the same problem, where when someone has celebrity and you realize the new technology, printing press in this case, means that you can rush out something under their name, then the public and publishers and authors need to develop new methods for verification and figuring out what really is or really isn't, and thinking about why you care what really is and really isn't, and what the value of that authenticity is. It's exactly the same problem.
We had that in the Renaissance music as well, right?
Right,
The
when people
printing press.
claim something is just going to
Just
play
Gun,
when
yes.
Just Gun has been dead for decades.
Exactly. So old story, new chapter.
Very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about creativity and originality in the context of AI and machine learning. Is it possible for AI to be truly creative? Is it merely mimicking human creativity? Is it just being derivative?
So, two facets of that. One, a huge portion of human creativity is being derivative, because you are taking a piece of music and responding to it with variation. You are taking something that is happening in the world and then creating something that responds. You are reading the Iliad and Shakespeare and Asimov and being like, I want to write something that combines the Iliad with Shakespeare and Asimov. And then you do. It's we sort of have this fixation on originality, which is a very 19th century idea that ideas should come to you when you're a philosopher sitting in a hut on a cliff. With no contact with human beings. But in fact, so much of nuance and delight is responding to other things, which humans do more nuancedly than AIs, because we can think, I'm going to focus on these things, whereas the AI has this giant mass of information from which it's drawing. One of the things I think that has been proved for a long time that AI is good at is directing humans to notice what we aren't thinking about when we try to create. So if we go back to the moments when we were trying to create computers that could play chess and that could play Go, one of the skills that those computers had was that they would always analyze every single square on the board simultaneously and make their next move based on every single one. While a human being is trying to do that, but our eyes are on one spot, we've mostly been thinking about over here, it's easy for us to not notice over there. And both players of chess and of Go learned a lot from noticing the things a computer would do that they would not, because the computer thinks slightly differently. In exactly the same way, I also compose music, and I took all the MIDIs of my compositions, fed them into an AI, asked it, compose a piece of music that I would compose. And it composed a piece of music, and it was interesting to hear what it did that yes, I would do, and what it did that no, I wouldn't do. And the next time I sit down to compose, those observations it gave me will give me ideas, increasing my creativity, the same way that chess computers and Go playing computers increased the creativity and understanding of human chess players and human Go players.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So we touched a little bit on some of the ethical considerations when we mentioned Drake and the Weeknd. So a song was released or a video was released that wasn't theirs, even though it sounded like them. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the ethical considerations of AI-generated content in creative fields and some of the copyright and ownership.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to start?
I mean, here as the historian, I always zoom way out, where copyright, we just invented this a few centuries ago. It's incredibly new. Anything that hasn't been around for 1,000 years is just made up. But within that, what that means is what copyright was invented for is to incentivize creativity and to make there be an economic lifeline so that a musician, an artist, a writer has something to live on, which is a crowdsourced form of income coming from the people who are paying for it. So long as that author or artist or musician can live on what they're getting, that was one method. We don't have to use that method. We can use a different method. The problem isn't abstractly is this violating copyright? The problem is concretely, people can't get paid and people can't live. A society which had universal basic income, we wouldn't even be bothering to have this conversation because everybody would be fine and producing their art anyway because their economic thriving would be supported by something else that wasn't threatened by this. Briefly to finish that, a good point that my science fiction writer friend Cory Doctorow often makes. We use the word Luddite as if it means somebody who is anti-technology, but the original actual Luddite movement, when they were attacking the machines, it wasn't that they didn't want the machines to make their jobs more efficient. It was that they were being implemented in a way that was meaning everybody was getting fired and not paid and going to have a famine if their employment was taken away from them by this innovation in technology. You need to implement the new technology in a way that doesn't cause people to go into poverty and have a famine. Policy is everything. And that's true with the AI thing. And lots of people want to make it abstractly about the principle of copyright. We're forgetting that the principle of copyright is a tool to solve another problem, not an end in itself.
Yeah, and beautifully put. I just want to reinforce the connection that you made there, right, between this conversation about creativity, which I think is so often driven by underlying anxieties about things like labor and whether it is being recognized and whether it is being compensated for, right? And so that when we're talking about a kind of absence of creativity in AI and generative AI, I think that one of the things that that's oftentimes standing in for are these anxieties about whether artists are going to be able to live off of their art, right? And imaginings of creativity as a space for the cultivation of certain kinds of skills and then the joyful performing out of those kinds of skills, right?
Yeah.
And so when we talk about creativity and can AI be creative, I think there's a fundamental no if you're using that definition, but that definition is predicated on all of these ideas about labor and compensation and whether artists can live and joyfully produce the things that they want to do.
And we see this manifesting in just so many different areas, from musicians to
Cover
script
artists.
writers.
And it was interesting to note that the conversation about AI changed abruptly when the first AIs that could make computer programming code came out. Because before that, it was writers and artists and actors who were anxious, who are already fairly economically and politically disenfranchised populations. And then suddenly all of the computer engineers who are making this in the first place were like, oh, wait a minute, it might take away my line of income. This is a serious problem. And it became a serious problem overnight when the people making it were also threatened by it.
Which I think, too, speaks to the way that things like music and art have been used as these kind of multi-facing modalities, right? That a generative AI that is producing computer code is probably not too fun to play with, but a generative AI that can produce a music track when you put in a text-based prompt, that is fun to play with, right? So there's a really different way in which these generative AI technologies present themselves and kind of do PR work that maybe the curtains are pulled back a bit when we get into things like, oh no, this is certainly just labor.
Yeah.
As a technologist, I might say that we still find those computer code fun to work with as well.
No shade no shade to developers.
Different art. Okay. So sometimes we talk about this as either or. There's either human creativity or there's AI and machine learning, creating something. But it really isn't that simple, is it? Can we talk a little bit about how there is now collaboration between the artists and the tools, and how you see that changing some of what is coming out?
Well, here's what I'll say about that is that this is also something that has long history, that the composer George Lewis made the piece Voyager, which is for two creative, responsive improvisers, one human and one computer. He made that in 1987, right? So there's a long history of music that's being created, artists who are working with algorithms and algorithmic generation, as well
and
as
even before that, right? In the 17th century, there was a fountain built outside Rome in Tivoli, which has a robotic organ that plays with water pushing it.
oh,
from
don't even
gravity,
get me started on organs.
right? And then people are supposed to play along beside it, and the player piano transformation. All of these things were similar revolutions. Humanity has not had the experience of living without an information revolution since 1450. We are an information revolution species. We are now native to it. This is the current information revolution. And every artist, every musician, every producer of material has been affected by the ongoing sequence of information revolutions that have been going on for 500 years.
Yeah, so you have the misfortune of being in the room with two historians who are always inclined to say, like, this is just turning up the volume, perhaps, on something that has long precedence.
I love it. So let me build on that. So where I think I'd like us to close, I'm going to ask both of you to peer into the crystal ball and talk about where you think things are going. What's the future of creative fields and AI? Where do you think we're going to be a few years from now or many years from now?
So, not predictive, but hopeful. If I could control how it would go, we would develop new and better ways to pay and sustain our creative population so that they aren't dependent upon the complications of income and sales and can have a steady income while producing material. And then creative people will use AI the way the Go players used the computer and the way I used the algorithm that could give me back my own music. Or a few years ago, I had some students who wanted to do a Renaissance painting in the style of something, but of something else. And they asked an AI to give them some examples so they could think about it. And there was an angel in the painting, and the AI put the wings on the angel's head instead of on the angel's body because it's an AI. And they thought that was really interesting, and they made a sort of a helmet thing that had wings on it that looked really cool in the end, which was not the computer generating it, but the computer thinking outside of a box. That was a great thing for students to be doing in a classroom. And often when my students are doing a creative project, a student will have an idea for a video game or a video. And right now, all they can do is write the screenplay or write a description. Shortly, they might be able to have AI actually generate a mock-up of this as a part of their creative experience, right? That plus everybody getting paid enough to live would be a great combo because we get to have our toys and we also get to have our bread and daily bread. And a compromise like that would be ideal, but the humans will always produce the best stuff because we're going to take what the AIs are doing and what a fellow humans are doing and what Bach is doing and what computers are spitting out and combining it all together to produce something that responds to all of it.
Yeah, just want to plus one that is my hope, if not prognostication, is that this moment, this amplification of these pre-existing trends that we've talked about really does spur on a kind of large-scale economic change that means that creators of all sorts, professional, amateur, are like well-funded and well-supported.
Exactly, because this is an old problem. And every spring when I have students graduating and I'm asking what they're doing, the ones who want to go be an actor or a musician or et cetera, they're going to go start bartending and they're going to go start having their day job that will detract from their artistic output because it's the only way to live right now. We need to solve this. If AI pushes us to have to solve it faster, but we solve it well, then thank you, AI, for getting us off our butts to solve what was already a crisis for a very long time.
That's great. All right, so let's close there. So a big thank you, Paula Harper, Ada Palmer.
This was great.
This was great. Really enjoyed it. And thank you for joining us for this segment of our series on generative AI, talking about AI in the creative fields. I'm Kevin Boyd, the CIO at the University of Chicago, and I hope you'll join us for more of our series on generative AI. Thank you.